They call him the Black Pope. Unlike the official pope, he has no throne or crown, no grand blessings before crowds. Yet, many believe his power far surpasses that of the Vatican's visible leader. Within the world's smallest sovereign city lies a secret power structure, guarded by centuries of tradition, unbreakable oaths, and a chilling silence. Here, decisions that can alter the fate of nations for the course of human history are not broadcast on television, but whispered through ancient stone corridors. Have you ever wondered who truly controls the Vatican? And why does the title Superior General evoke more fear than even the Pope himself? This story has no hero in the spotlight, only shadows moving behind the curtain. For centuries, the world has watched the white throne of the Vatican, the seat of the Catholic Pope, seen by millions as God's representative on earth. To the faithful, he is a beacon of spiritual light, the guardian of truth and righteousness. But few realize that just steps away from that throne, inside a modest building without crown or white robes, lies a power many believe untouchable. The Superior General, Supreme Commander of the Jesuit Order. Unlike the Pope, he never appears publicly, gives no blessings, leads no grand masses, nor delivers Christmas addresses in St. Peter's Square. Yet, according to documents, rumors, and faint traces in long-forgotten historical records, he may be the true master of power within the Vatican. It is no coincidence that politicians, generals, and cardinals whisper his name with a blend of reverence and dread. The Black Pope. The title reflects not only the black robes of the Jesuits, but the shadowy power he wields, silent yet capable of shaping the spiritual light of millions. His presence, or more precisely, his mysterious absence, raises a question no one dares voice. Who truly holds power inside the Vatican? How has this tiny nation, barely a square kilometer in size, influenced wars, governments, and continents' destinies for centuries? The official story leaves gaps, missing pages, vanished documents, decisions made without any signatures. And always, in the background of every unclear event, the Jesuits emerge, quiet yet impossible to erase. So, is the Black Pope merely a religious figure, or part of a hidden network of global power the world has never fully grasped? Tonight, Bedtime History invites you to step behind that heavy curtain, tracing the Jesuit order's origins and unveiling nearly 500 years of hidden secrets never taught in school. If the Vatican is a spiritual kingdom, then the Jesuits are its elite special forces, not only for their intellect and iron discipline, but for their chilling, unconditional devotion. They call him the Black Pope. Unlike the visible and celebrated figure of the official Pope, the Superior General of the Jesuit Order holds influence that many believe surpasses even the pontiffs. Without a throne, crown, or public blessings, this mysterious figure operates silently within the Vatican, inside ancient stone corridors shielded by centuries of tradition, unbreakable oaths, and deliberate silence. While millions gaze upon the white throne as the emblem of spiritual authority, few realize that just a few steps away, within modest quarters and devoid of public spectacle, resides a power that quietly shapes the fate of nations and the course of history. For centuries, the Superior General, the Supreme Commander of the Jesuits, has avoided the limelight. He offers no public addresses, leads no grand masses, and refrains from appearances in St. Peter's Square. Yet, through documents, rumors, and faint traces preserved in forgotten archives, whispers suggest he is the true architect behind the Vatican's unseen strings of power. Politicians, generals, and cardinals name him with a mix of reverence and unease. The Black Pope. This moniker goes beyond the black robes typical of the Jesuits. It reflects a shadowy authority exercised in silence, a force shaping the spiritual light that guides millions without ever stepping into the public eye. This mysterious absence has fueled a question hushed in the corridors. Who truly wields power within the Vatican? How does a tiny sovereign city-state, barely a square kilometer, command influence that has swayed wars, reshaped governments, and altered continents over centuries? The official narrative is incomplete. Pages are missing, documents vanish, and decisions bear no signatures. In the shadows of every opaque event, the Jesuits persist, unseen yet impossible to erase. So who is this Black Pope? Is he a mere religious leader or a part of a global network whose depth and reach remain largely unknown? To understand this quiet power, one must peer behind a veil centuries old, examining the Jesuit order's origins and the concealed layers of influence it has maintained for nearly 500 years. In the spiritual kingdom of the Vatican, the Jesuits stand as an elite special force, not merely due to their intellect or discipline, but because of an unwavering, sometimes chilling, devotion that continues to shape the world today. The Jesuit order, officially known as the Society of Jesus, was established in 1540 amidst the turbulence of the Protestant Reformation. As figures like Martin Luther openly challenged the authority and doctrines of the Catholic Church, the Vatican recognized the urgent need for a new kind of organization, one that wielded power not through prayer alone, but through strategic intellect, discipline, and, when deemed necessary, covert action. Ignatius of Loyola, a Spanish knight who had been gravely wounded in battle, founded this order. During his recovery, he transformed his warrior spirit, replacing the sword with scripture while retaining the same relentless dedication and military precision. Unlike typical monastic orders that sought solitude, Jesuits were trained as a tightly disciplined force operating in the world rather than retreating from it. Their organization bore military features, ranks, commands, absolute obedience, all designed to create a cohesive, mission-driven group. Jesuit priests became scholars, linguists, scientists, and advisors to kings and rulers. Their influence stretched globally, establishing educational institutions that molded not just clergy, but also future politicians, generals, and leaders across continents. The Jesuits emerged as the intellectual backbone and strategic arm of the Catholic Church, adept at navigating political arenas and cultural landscapes alike. Their schools and missions became centers of elite education and ideological formation, producing generations loyal to Jesuit principles. This blend of rigorous discipline, intellectual prowess, an unwavering loyalty to the superior general, who holds more authority within the order than even the Pope, became their hallmark. Their influence sparked a mix of admiration and apprehension. Beneath their modest black robes hid minds sharpened to influence the course of kingdoms, often through ideas and education rather than force. The Jesuit order thus became a potent, if often shadowy, entity, strategists and missionaries united with a singular aim to assert Catholic influence in an era when the Church's very survival seemed at stake. Since their establishment, the Jesuit order has masterfully embedded itself within the fabric of global politics, wielding influence through strategic infiltration rather than overt force. Their expansive network has reached deep into political systems across numerous countries, subtly shaping ideologies and molding minds at the highest levels of power. Jesuit institutions, renowned for their rigorous education, have become the breeding grounds for future leaders, politicians, generals, and influential figures who carry with them the values and perspectives cultivated under Jesuit guidance. This network functions as a sophisticated vehicle of soft power, engaging not on battlefields, but in classrooms, councils, and advisory roles where the seeds of ideology and policy are sown. By operating quietly within elite circles, the Jesuits have effectively positioned themselves as key architects in the development of political thought and governance worldwide. Their influence transcends borders, reaching continent from the Americas to Asia, where their educational outreach and philosophical training continue to inform the decisions of governments and shape global affairs. Throughout history, the Jesuits have faced expulsion from over 80 countries, a testament to the suspicion and fear their influence engendered among various governments. From France and Spain to Portugal and China, entire regimes viewed the Jesuits as a hidden threat to their authority. Yet, despite these repeated expulsions, the Jesuits exhibited remarkable resilience. Instead of resisting openly or inciting rebellion, they adapted by going underground, changing names, and continuing their intellectual and missionary work covertly. In the mid-18th century, suspicions about the Jesuits' growing influence over education and politics culminated in their expulsion from several European countries. Portugal, under King Joseph I and Prime Minister Sebastião de Mello, expelled Jesuits not for religious heresy, but for their perceived power in shaping the minds of young nobility who began questioning royal authority. France followed suit, shutting down Jesuit institutions and seizing their assets with little official explanation, reflecting a deep unease with the order's autonomy and reach. Eventually, under pressure from European powers, Pope Clement XIV formally dissolved the Society of Jesus in 1773, marking what seemed to be their end. However, the Jesuits' disappearance was far from a defeat. They did not rebel or resist violently. Instead, they quietly retreated, preserving their vast collections of knowledge and continuing their work under different guises. Noble families safeguarded their libraries and documents, and former members continued their missions discreetly. Their ideas, already seated in Europe's intellectual and political elite, endured beyond the official suppression. By 1814, the Jesuits were fully restored by Pope Pius VII, a recognition of their critical role in defending the Catholic faith amid rising secularism and anti-clerical movements. This revival wasn't simply forgiveness, but a strategic acknowledgement of their unparalleled ability to influence minds and sustain the Church's authority in a transforming world. From then on, Jesuits transformed into a more mobile and adaptable force, no longer tied to fixed locations but spread globally, ready to navigate and influence the shifting political landscapes. Their network had become borderless, reliant on intellectual loyalty and disciplined obedience rather than land or armies. The superior general, the so-called Black Pope, continued to command this vast, shadowy empire, issuing silent orders that extended far beyond the visible reach of the Vatican. This capacity to survive suppression, adapt, and re-emerge stronger underscores the Jesuits' unique position as a resilient and enduring power in global affairs. The relationship between the Jesuits and Freemasonry is a perplexing and often debated chapter in history, weaving together threads of secrecy, influence, and power across political landscapes. On the surface, the Vatican has consistently condemned Freemasonry, branding it heretical, atheistic, and morally relativistic. Multiple papal decrees have forbidden Catholics from joining Masonic lodges, portraying membership as a betrayal of the faith. In contrast, Freemasonry emerged grounded in principles of reason, science, and humanism, frequently criticizing the Church as outdated, oppressive, and a hindrance to free thought. Yet beneath this apparent animosity lies a paradox. Both the Jesuits and Freemasons operate within secretive, highly structured frameworks that span the globe. Both have been found circling centers of political, financial, and military power, raising unsettling questions about their true roles in shaping history. Historically, whispers hint at a murky connection between the two during the turbulent late 18th and early 19th centuries, a transformative period marked by revolutions and collapsing monarchies. Some suggest that exiled Jesuits, following their widespread suppression, infiltrated Freemason lodges, bringing with them organizational discipline and insider knowledge that helped Freemasonry extend its reach across Europe and the Americas. Both groups share striking similarities: secret rituals, hierarchical orders, coded language, and an unbreakable oath of loyalty to their brotherhood. These parallels challenge the notion that they are outright enemies. Instead, they may represent two branches of a larger, unseen hand guiding political revolutions and power shifts. In post-revolutionary France, for example, Jesuits re-entered intellectual circles heavily permeated by Masonic ideology. Indirect evidence points to Jesuit priests acting as advisors within certain Masonic-related secret societies, particularly in projects involving education and social reform. While no official treaties or declarations confirm an alliance, the overlapping memberships and shared philosophies have puzzled historians for generations. Importantly, Freemasonry itself is not a monolith. Its local lodges differ greatly, some embracing humanistic Enlightenment ideals, others engaging in overt anti-church political agendas. Simultaneously, the Jesuits maintained presence in these regions, sometimes as faith guardians, sometimes as silent observers. Some of the boldest theories propose that rather than rivals or allies, Jesuits and Freemasons function as two arms of a greater control system, faith and reason working in tandem to influence the direction of society. Within this framework, the Black Pope is not the supreme commander, but a critical link in a far-reaching chain that orchestrates global power dynamics. This unseen system, cloaked in secrecy and complexity, has largely defied open discussion, hinting at a layered reality where belief and control merge beyond public perception. When we speak of Europe's religious history, few words carry as much weight and dread as heresy. At the heart of this fear was the formidable Inquisition, a ruthless institution that transformed faith into a weapon, silencing those who dared to divert from orthodox belief. Behind the scenes of these brutal tribunals, however, operated a figure seldom seen by the public eye, but deeply influential: the Superior General of the Jesuits, often called the Black Pope. Originating centuries before the Jesuit order's rise, the Inquisition entered a new phase of calculated precision by the 16th century, a period that coincided with the rapid ascent of the Jesuits. The Vatican's struggle against the Protestant Reformation required more than spiritual fervor. It sought a finely tuned instrument capable of controlling thought and extinguishing rebellion at its inception. The Jesuits filled this role impeccably. Jesuits wielded intellectual power over mere coercion. They had the capacity to detect and neutralize dangerous ideas before they could foment dissent, using their extensive educational networks spread across Catholic territories. Instead of soldiers or torturers, their weapon was the disciplined mind, and their tool was information, carefully gathered, analyzed, and discreetly reported to their headquarters, where the Superior General decided on the next move. Not every Jesuit was an interrogator, but collectively, they authored the manuals defining orthodoxy and heresy, establishing cerebral boundaries through their teachings and surveillance. Schools became intelligence hubs where even a student's question could be scrutinized as potential spiritual rebellion. This pervasive mental regulation didn't require prisons. It created an atmosphere of self-censorship, a silent policing of thoughts rooted in fear and obedience. Historical records suggest that many Inquisition cases originated from Jesuit reports. Information silently transmitted from private lectures or theological discussions and meticulously assessed in Rome. Such covert operations transformed the defense of faith into an exercise of ideological domination. While the Inquisition served as the visible enforcer, the Jesuits orchestrated the subtle strategies shaping the intellectual climate of the time. In this tightly controlled environment, mere thoughts were suffocated not by physical torture, but by an imposed silence. Jesuits understood that punishing deviant ideas was less effective than creating a culture where such ideas dared not arise. This invisible censorship was so effective that many feared stepping beyond accepted doctrines even without facing direct accusation. At the core of this system stood the Superior General, who issued orders that cascaded through an intricate network of loyal priests, ensuring any perceived threat vanished before gaining momentum. This silent command structure, operating far from public view, wielded far more control than any courtroom judge or inquisitor. In an era when thoughts themselves became battlegrounds, the real power was held not in the halls of churches or courts, but the unseen chambers where the Black Pope dictated the boundaries of acceptable belief. The Vatican, though the world's smallest sovereign state, houses a complex and often unseen power structure, with its heart pulsating not just around the visible figure of the Pope, but deeply embedded within the office of the Superior General of the Jesuit Order, the Black Pope. This position operates autonomously from the Pope, wielding vast influence over a global network that spans over 110 countries. Unlike the public-facing Pope who addresses throngs in St. Peter's Square and delivers blessings and messages to the faithful, the Superior General functions behind closed doors. Known as the mind behind the curtain, he commands obedience that rivals military precision, orchestrating a vast empire without borders through educational institutions, think tanks, charities, and clandestine communications. His headquarters, the Curia Generalizia, located close to but independent from the Vatican's central authority, serves as a strategic command center. Here, detailed reports, ranging from geopolitical assessments to missionary activities, flow in from Jesuit missions worldwide. These reports inform coordinated educational, spiritual, and at times political initiatives designed to extend the Vatican's reach quietly but effectively. The Superior General's authority surpasses that of many high-ranking church officials. While cardinals and bishops are subject to the Pope's direction, the Superior General possesses near absolute command over Jesuit personnel and operations globally, without needing Vatican approval to shift resources or launch strategic missions. His orders are deemed the voice of God within the order, demanding unyielding loyalty from Jesuits who are trained to act as instruments of this silent authority. Furthermore, Jesuits embedded in academic, political, and media institutions act as extensions of this influence. They are positioned in universities, advisory boards, and cultural institutions, shaping thought leaders and policymakers. Despite operating outside the public eye, their reach behind the Vatican walls is profound. This structure allows the Black Pope to quietly navigate the intricate political dynamics of the Church and the world, maintaining a system of power that functions with almost perfect efficiency and near invisibility. While the white papal throne symbolizes spiritual authority to millions, the silent operations emanating from the Jesuit Superior General's office steer the deeper currents of influence, molding education, ideology, and even international relations without the need for public spectacle or acclaim. Throughout the major global conflicts of the 20th century, the Jesuit order maintained a presence that, while never overtly militaristic, proved crucial in shaping the aftermath of war. Unlike armies wielding rifles, Jesuits operated quietly behind the scenes as mediators, educators, and conduits of information. Their extensive network of schools, missions, and religious institutions spanned both sides of the battle lines, allowing them to maintain lines of communication when conventional channels were severed. During World War I, Jesuit priests worked across Europe, in Germany, France, Austria, Hungary, Italy, and Russia, teaching the children of generals and politicians. The Vatican's official stance of neutrality afforded these Jesuits relative freedom, enabling them to send discreet messages and maintain channels of contact amidst the chaos of war, censorship, and broken communications. Evidence suggests that Jesuits sometimes functioned as informal envoys, quietly carrying messages between rival factions and advising leaders from behind the curtain, influencing decisions without drawing public attention. World War II presented an even more complex scenario. The Vatican held a cautious silence in the face of Nazi Germany's rise, but Jesuit priests in Germany navigated a delicate balance. Some resisted the regime, risking imprisonment and death, while others operated under Nazi supervision, propagating anti-communist messages framed as defending Christian Europe. This ambivalence raised questions about a dual strategy, possibly guided from within the Vatican itself. Following the war, during the dawn of the Cold War, Jesuit networks re-emerged as valuable assets, particularly in Latin America, Eastern Europe, and Asia, regions threatened by the communist expansion. Reports hint at collaboration between the Jesuits and Western intelligence agencies, including the CIA, to counter communist influence, though the full extent of these connections remains obscured. Throughout these tumultuous times, the Jesuits were neither frontline combatants nor generals issuing orders from war rooms. Instead, they quietly secured strategic footholds through education, diplomacy, and subtle influence. Their adaptability and discretion enabled them to survive wars unscathed, expand their reach, and shape the post-war world, positioning themselves as enduring architects of influence in an era defined not by bullets alone, but by ideas, information, and ideology. Latin America, a continent of vibrant culture and profound complexity, has long been a stage where the Jesuit order's influence plays out amid turmoil and transformation. Throughout the 20th century, the region endured relentless cycles of military coups, authoritarian regimes, and fierce ideological battles between communism and capitalism. While global powers like the CIA, Mossad, and Western financial interests frequently take the spotlight for their interventions, the Jesuits have also left an unmistakable, albeit quieter, imprint on the political and social landscape. Since the 1600s, Jesuits established resilient footholds across Paraguay, Peru, and Brazil, creating reductions, isolated religious settlements that were more than missions. They served as experimental socio-political communities designed to shape indigenous societies, both spiritually and culturally. When the tides of empire receded and new nations rose from colonial ashes, the Jesuits didn't retreat. Instead, they shifted roles to become advisors, educators, and even mediators amid the region's frequent political crises. What's remarkable is their complex positioning. Jesuit priests often openly supported liberation theology movements advocating social justice and equality. They sympathized with revolutionary groups such as the Sandinistas in Nicaragua and the FARC in Colombia, aligning spiritually with peasants and reformers striving for change. Simultaneously, Jesuit educators worked within elite military academies and political institutions, cultivating relationships with the children of the powerful, including generals and top politicians. This dual presence sparked questions about Jesuit neutrality. Were they ideologically aligned with any side, or was their strategy to remain influential wherever power shifted? The 1973 coup in Chile exemplifies this ambiguity. Amid the violent overthrow of President Salvador Allende, the world's first democratically elected Marxist leader, Jesuit priests were reported both standing with Allende and having former students participating in the forces that orchestrated the coup. In Argentina during the brutal Dirty War, Jesuits faced persecution when speaking against oppression, yet some kept silent, operating within a web of surveillance where confessions could function as sources of political intelligence. Their survival through shifting regimes underscores the Jesuits' historic approach. They do not bear arms or write laws. They train those who wield weapons and craft policy. Their enduring influence lies in shaping minds and ideas, planting seeds in both revolutionaries and dictators alike. Notable leaders like Fidel Castro, who attended Jesuit schools in Havana, absorbed not just academic lessons but strategies of organization and rhetoric that later defined their leadership style. This pattern extends beyond Castro to figures such as Rafael Trujillo, Alfredo Stroessner, and François Duvalier, all shaped by Jesuit education to some degree. This raises profound questions about the nature of Jesuit education. While rooted in values of service and humility, their disciplined, critical thinking training arms students with potent tools that leaders might employ for both benevolent governance and harsh authoritarian rule. The Jesuits themselves do not claim responsibility for this dual legacy, but the pattern suggests their philosophies permeate the corridors of power in ways subtle and enduring. In this crucible of crisis and opportunity, the Jesuits position themselves not as open partisans, but as patient strategists, enduring through turbulence, influencing silently, and ensuring their vision shapes the future of a continent forever caught between revolution and control. The Jesuit order has evolved into a subtle architect of contemporary global influence, weaving together education, humanitarian efforts, and strategic positioning. Through their far-reaching network of schools, universities, and charitable organizations, they have merged faith with politics and ideology in ways that remain largely unseen. Their influence extends beyond the confines of traditional religious instruction, penetrating the cultural and intellectual fabric of societies across continents. By molding the minds of future leaders and policymakers, Jesuits have established enduring pathways of power that quietly steer societal values and political directions. This hidden architecture is not built through force or overt displays of power, but through the steady cultivation of ideas and networks that shape how communities think, govern, and interact. The Jesuits' ability to operate within diverse cultural contexts allows them to adapt and embed themselves deeply within the global landscape, ensuring their vision resonates through generations. As a result, the Jesuit order stands as a testament to the profound impact an unseen hand can have on the development of civilizations, transforming spirituality into a sophisticated tool of governance and influence that continues to shape the world in subtle yet profound ways. As the 21st century unfolds, a new global order begins to take shape, one where religious influence intertwines seamlessly with political authority. This resurgence of faith-based power isn't displayed through grand gestures or overt declarations, but through subtle and strategic positioning. The Jesuits, with their centuries-old expertise in navigating both spiritual and temporal realms, stand at the forefront of this transformation. In regions like Latin America, the Jesuit presence goes beyond traditional ministry. They engage deeply in social issues, advocating for land reforms, championing indigenous rights, in opening dialogues with leftist political movements. Their involvement here signals a deliberate intertwining of religious philosophy with social and political activism, marking a shift from margins to the center of societal change. Across Africa, Jesuit-founded educational institutions are shaping emerging leaders, instilling in them values that combine global citizenship with a distinctly Catholic worldview. This cultivation of leadership influences how new generations perceive power, justice, and responsibility, showing how education becomes both a tool and a platform for shaping the future. In Asia, notably in the Philippines, South Korea, and Vietnam, Jesuit-affiliated humanitarian organizations and social networks subtly influence political discourse. They don't rely on overt propaganda, but instead guide the values and narratives that underpin public opinion, steering conversations on social justice, governance, and morality. Even in Western societies, where Catholicism was once considered outdated, there is a quiet renaissance of religious engagement, driven less by ritual and more by the search for spiritual grounding amid the uncertainties of modern life. Young people seek meaning, and institutions shaped by Jesuit pedagogy provide frameworks that blend faith with contemporary concerns. This modern manifestation of political religion is nuanced. There are no crowns or battalions. Instead, the power lies in shaping those who hold authority, influencing policies, values, and ideologies. The Jesuits, through their global network and educational reach, stand again at the intersection of belief and governance, quietly guiding the course of nations by molding the minds that will lead them. In this evolving global order, faith and politics are no longer separate spheres, but parts of a complex web of influence, with the Jesuits as both architects and caretakers of a vision that blends tradition with adaptation. Behind the visible actors, the Black Pope's shadow lingers, orchestrating a spiritual roadmap that continues to shape the world's future. The journey into the hidden realms of the Jesuits and their profound impact on the Vatican unveils a reality that challenges conventional perceptions of authority and control across global power networks. This exploration exposes a complex web where faith intertwines with strategy, intellect, and influence, revealing that true power often resides not in the visible symbols of leadership, but in the quiet hands that shape minds, policies, and history itself. Exploring the concealed layers of the Jesuit order and their profound impact on the Vatican uncovers a reality that challenges conventional views of power and authority within global systems. This journey reveals that the true forces shaping history often operate in silence and shadows, far beyond the spotlight of official narratives. If you found this deep dive into hidden histories and the intricate web of influence intriguing, consider subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing this exploration with others who seek to uncover the unseen forces shaping our world. Your engagement is the key to unlocking more untold stories and revealing the truth that history often hides.